For this self-portrait, what I was trying to do is follow the steps in the Vitruvian Studio process, but just applying it to a different portrait this time rather than the portrait that they supplied. So I was sort of trying to take the training wheels off a bit. What I ended up doing is for every step of the drawing, I would go back to the Vitruvian Studio videos and I would sort of watch through them, kind of skip through and read the instructions for each step. And then for that day, I would try to recreate those steps on this self-portrait. And that was really helpful because it helped remind me how you get started. And it also helped me to remember the things that I had learned the first time through. Trying to apply them to a brand new subject really helped reinforce what they were trying to teach with those methods. Now, as I was going through it, I still face the problem here where it seems like every line that I draw, the first time I draw it, it's not in the right place and I have to erase it and redraw it. And so many of the steps here, I didn't just do them one time. I had to do them again and again, sort of redoing them to get them in the right place. But even the master drawer who is teaching the Vitruvian Studio course, he does corrections along the way as well. And I guess that's the whole point of drawing in pencil, is that you have the ability to erase and to get it right. And so it's just a matter of patience and continually checking yourself and not getting lazy about it. Now, the eyes, as before with the other portrait that I tried to draw, were just tough. Just getting all of the details right without getting lost in the reference material is tricky. Trying not to overdraw things and trying to remember the rules of anatomy, but also drawing what you perceive. Combining those two skills was something that I definitely need to practice more. Now you can see here at this stage, I had to totally redraw the nose a couple of times, and even in the end, I think that the nose here is still not right in the final product. It's too long. Like, my nose isn't actually that long, but at some point I kind of had to just go with it. I don't know if I should have just stuck with it more and done more redrawing, but I felt like if I did any more correction on the nose and the proportions of the face, I was going to have to just scrap the whole thing and start from scratch. Maybe I should have done that, but I felt like I was too far in and the sunk cost fallacy sort of hit me there. And so I just went with it and I decided I was going to draw a portrait that sort of looks like me, but with a longer nose. Now, as I started to draw the ear, it became clear to me that the reference photo that I had taken of myself was not great. The lighting on it was not great. I asked my son to just snap a photo of me and didn't think too hard about the lighting, but I realized as I was trying to draw this ear and get some of the basic shadow borders right, that I had multiple sources of light in the photo. So I had a lamp on behind me and I also had an overhead light on, and so the light was hitting my face and my head from multiple angles, and that made the shadows less defined. It made them kind of more mushy, and it was really hard to convey in the drawing where the shadows were because they were too subtle and they were too kind of muddled. And so as I was trying to establish the lightest lights on the drawing and then the darkest darks, it was tough because it didn't seem like there were any particularly dark spots because I had light coming from all these different angles. So what that resulted in, I think, is a little bit of overdevelopment of some of the shadows where there weren't actually deep shadows. And so that makes the drawing look kind of just messy, like I have some dirt or mud or something on my face rather than it being a shadow. So I learned for future reference that I need to make sure that I'm just lighting the portrait reference photo from one angle with one strong light, and then I think that'll help me establish some stronger shadow lines and kind of be able to convey the roundness and the three-dimensionality of the form a little bit better than when I have sort of the diffused light from multiple sources like I had for this reference photo. But anyway, I used the powdered graphite here again to establish the dark spots, but mainly the dark points were just on the shirt that I was wearing in the reference photo. I don't have any hair on my head, and so I didn't have to use much graphite on my head to establish like the hair mass or anything. When I did establish the kind of shadowy parts on my head where I have kind of stubbly hair that's still hanging in there, I just used a paper towel to kind of smudge the powdered graphite, and then I smudged that around on the top of my head, and that kind of helped establish a sort of subtle shadow. And as I got to the finish here, I'm not sure if I really properly finished this drawing. I was spending what I felt like was a lot of time, with the different transitions from dark to light and rounding out the forms and trying to make the transitions smooth and subtle where they needed to be, and then maintaining the forms where I needed to. But at some point, I feel like more than finishing the drawing, I just sort of abandoned it. It didn't seem like there was anything I could do to improve the drawing beyond a certain point, and I was just kind of fussing with it without seeing much development of quality. So I called it good and said, okay, this is where we're going to end this portrait drawing, and we're going to move on to another drawing to try again, starting from scratch. Now, with this final version, there are plenty of things that I can see that are wrong about it. The nose, as I mentioned, the angle of the eyes is totally different from the reference photo. The shape of my head is just weird. The drawn version, the real version, it's all weird. Just every part of it has little things that need to be tweaked, but I thought for fun I would just compare this self-portrait to the other two self-portraits I've drawn. This was one that I did at the very beginning of drawing on the right side of the brain as sort of a reference, and you can see all the amateurish nature of that. Here's the self-portrait I did at the end of drawing on the right side of the brain, where I was getting better. Obviously still not a masterpiece. Here I feel like this is still a little better. I mean, this is certainly not anything professional quality, but we're doing our best, and so we'll see how the next one goes. Maybe it'll be a little bit better than this one. Anyway, I appreciate you watching, and if you have any questions or whatever, put them in the comments, and take care.